Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do a ride evaluation, meaning how does it feel to ride of the SRAM Rival AXS etap 12-speed group set. My goodness, that's a mouthful. I recently had an opportunity to do a review of a bike that's currently running on my channel. The bike was a 2021 Trek Imanda SL6, and that bike came equipped with said group set. And I was really eager to do this type of review because I think SRAM is doing some interesting things. So SRAM completely ripped the script up that Shimano and Campagnolo were operating with, and they completely redesigned the concept of shifting for road bikes. A couple of the things that I hope to unpack in this video is who exactly is this group set focused on? What's the target market for this? And whether or not wireless shifting is really a thing for the masses. In this review, I'm going to talk about, number one, the ergonomics, meaning how did it feel to have my hands in the hoods and being able to get to the shifting and the braking with ease. I'm also going to talk about the shifting performance, meaning the speed of shifting, how quiet it is, and how it feels to actually shift under load. Then we're going to talk about the ease of the use of the gears, meaning how easy is it with this type of configuration that SRAM has come up with to be able to control my cadence depending on the speed that I'm riding at. Very, very important. We're going to talk about whether or not SRAM got that right or not. You know, I think that SRAM has managed to blur the lines between its entry-level road group set and its top-tier group set in a manner that Shimano and Campagnolo has actually failed to be able to do. So it's going to be interesting taking that into consideration as well. Let's jump in. This group set isn't going to win any awards for dashing looks. It isn't that it's ugly, it's just that it's unspectacular. You literally forget that it's there. It does its job in complete anonymity, but this isn't a beauty contest. We're here to find out how it performs, so let's talk about performance. So let's begin by talking about the remarkable fit of the hoods. Having very comfortable hand position is obviously one of the most critical things with bike riding. I immediately got into a very comfortable position. SRAM has done their homework. And my understanding is that in the next version of both the Force and the Red, the hoods are going to be the same width as these. So I felt very supported. I didn't have any numbness or any pressure issues or anything like that. So for me, they were very comfortable. From the comfortable position afforded by the hoods, I was able to access the brake levers and operate the brakes comfortably, even doing one-fingered modulated braking. And it was also just as easy for me to be able to get to the shifters and execute my shifts. Now, this is not an intuitive system for me to operate. Sweeping the right lever inwards makes the gears harder. Sweeping the left lever inwards makes the gears easier, which is exactly the opposite of what my brain wants to do, especially after using Campagnolo gearing for so many years. But the bottom line is that it's not something that I can't learn how to do or adapt. But in keeping with the theme of who is this system designed for or the target market, I think it's a lot easier for a newer cyclist coming into the sport brand new to be able to adopt to this system. It's a more natural or more teachable aspect for them than somebody like myself or perhaps other more experienced cyclists. But all in all, it's a system that works and operates remarkably well. Did you hear that audible thunk? Yeah, it shows up from time to time whenever you shift into a harder gear or under load. It wasn't anything really disruptive. It was just kind of like an announcement. Once you're in the gear, the system operates very smoothly. It's fairly quiet. All you hear is a little bit of mechanical sounds, nothing major, but it just shows that the system kind of punches above its weight in terms of the quality feel. There's kind of like a silkiness to it that I really appreciated. The shifting speed, I would put it on par with my Campagnolo Record 12-speed mechanical, aside from the fact that the Campagnolo has a little bit of a longer throw because we're dealing with a lever, not a button. And with the SRAM system, there's more of a consistency whether you're shifting up or shifting down, whereas with mechanical systems, it's going to just feel a little bit different. Now, if I were to compare it to my Super Record 11 EPS, it's nowhere near as fast as that. The quality of the shifts with the top tiered Campagnolo is actually much better, much quieter. But again, we're dealing with SRAM's entry level system, and as such, I think it acquitted itself very well. Now let's talk about the ease of the use of the gears. Now the SRAM Rival comes equipped either with a 1030 or a 1036. This bike came spec'd with a 1036. Now initially the 10, 11, 12, 13 cogs of spacing is perfect, but that's a region of the cassette that even with a 48 tooth chainring, you're not going to really be using a lot, especially for the way how most people ride. In most paceline situations, you're probably going to be riding somewhere between 19 and let's say 22 miles an hour. I found it very difficult to maintain a comfortable cadence where whenever I shift up one gear, I was basically dropping my cadence from like, let's say 85 down to 75. And if I shift in the other direction, my cadence is basically going from 85 to 95. Now, I think that SRAM designed this entire gear ratio, meaning the 48, 35, 10, 36, or 10, 30, with the idea that people would use the 35, shift a little bit, and get up to a certain speed, and then go back to the 48 and switch back up to, let's say, maybe the 17. I just don't think that that's really a practical way of riding a bike. Really don't know too many people who ride that way. The alternative is to keep it in the 35 for as long as you can, and at some point you're going to begin to get very close to cross-chaining your gearing. So as generous as I'd like to be to this group set, I'm gonna give the gear ratio that SRAM is using on here kind of like a C. My friend Chris Johnson is much more qualified to speak on all things SRAM, particularly the Rival, than I am. See, Chris is a SRAM aficionado, has one bike with the Force and one bike with the Rival. This Damani that he uses as his gravel rig recently accompanied us on a 90-mile adventure ride where we did part gravel, part road. And after the ride, Chris agreed to give us his perspective on the differences between the two group sets. So here's Chris doing the channel a solid.
You've got Rival.
Yep.
And you've got
Force.
And
okay.
Which one do you like better?
So I would say, honestly, the Force is better, not just because it's a higher tier, but it's lighter, noticeably so. It's about like 10% lighter, like overall the whole group set. But even beyond that, the ergonomics of the hoods on the Force, it's a lot wider, which is a lot more comfortable for my hand. Like I can really grip the whole hood, where here I have to kind of like slide my hands into it and kind of rest my palms on the bar instead of all on the hood. But that's me. The Force is quieter when it comes to like shifting, noticeably so. Well, I can if you like listen to your bike a lot when you're riding alone.
But the shifting speed is the same because the mechanism is the same.
Speed, I don't notice any difference.
Which cassette do you run on there now?
On here, it's a 1033. On my road bike, my aero bike is a 1028.
Okay, on the 1033, do you have issues with cadence control on group rides?
21 miles per hour. I remember I had a 1033 on my Force.
Right.
I couldn't maintain 21, and that's like a normal like group ride pace.
Right.
I would either be like down one and like pushing, or up one and spinning too fast, and so I couldn't get comfortable with.
What about the braking? How do you feel about the braking? Is there a difference?
I don't notice a difference, to be honest. Obviously, like my Rival is a lot. Like I have a lot more lever space because of the way that my bars are. So like I feel like I have more grip, but I'm not basing that on like Rival is better.
Right.
I just think it's the ergonomics are different on this bike versus the other bike.
Okay.
So I don't think there's any difference in the braking. Probably comes down a lot more to the pads that you're using than like the brake itself.
Right.
So it's there.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate you sharing your insights with us.
Of course.
Because, you know, I rode one and I was like, this is this.
Nah, at the end of the day, like Rival allows a lot of people to get access to an all-electric group set at a very low price. And it's not that much different. Like if you're gonna tell me like, is it worth the extra $1,000 for force and like your budget's tight? Absolutely not. Like for me, I started with force and I prefer it, so it makes sense to me.
Right.
But like the rival Groupset is amazing, like for what you get for the price.
Would you ever go to red?
Man, I just don't see the value in it. Like I guess if I had bought a bike that had red on it,
Yeah.
like that would be awesome, but like I don't see the value in going to red.
Oh, no.
It's the same mechanism, like you said, all across the line. So
Prettier.
just, yeah, it's shiny.
Yeah. Appreciate you, man.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so let's wrap this up by talking about who this group set is actually made for. I believe that SRAM is focused on where the market is going. Pretty much all bikes going forward are going to be equipped with some form of electronic shifting, as well as disc brakes, and specifically hydraulic disc brakes. And most entry-level cyclists are thinking that if I press one button, it's going to make the gears easier. If I press another button, it's going to make the gears harder. And if I press two buttons at the same time, it's going to take me from the big plate to the little plate. Are you a Campagnolo or Shimano user? And would you consider switching now to SRAM? And if you're a SRAM rival user, would you consider upgrading to either the Force or the Red as something that you have to do? Or are you perfectly content with the performance that you're obtaining from the rival as you have it? Let us know what you think in the comment section below. All right, guys, that's it. As always, our aim here at the channel is to inform, instruct, inspire. I certainly hope we have done that today. Be blessed, guys.